What is going on, guys? Back for the Love of Sports podcast, and today we're going to talk about NFL draft, mock draft, baby. It's coming up this Thursday. It's going to be a great, great draft. So many picks that I honestly have no idea where they're going to go. I'm going to give you guys a 1 through 12 today, right now, just to see where we're kind of at. I want you guys to like, comment, subscribe, see what's next for this draft. But I'll start it with number one. Obviously, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to go with Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson. He's been the perennial number one pick for 2 years already. Ever since his time at Clemson, everybody knew he was probably going to go number one. He's going to go number one, and I think it's due that he's number one. I think he's been the best player in college football for a couple years now. I think he deserves to be number one. I'm a little concerned because the team they have, I'm just not so sure that it's going to be up to par with what Clemson had in front of them for years. It's like they really don't have much there in Jacksonville. They rebuilt, for the last 3 years, pretty much trading everybody. The last year they drafted Chenault, the receiver. They got very lucky with the running back they had last year, undrafted. What a great season he had. And that's about it. There's really no one else there. They got DJ Chark, who's, on and off. He looked like he was going to be a really good receiver. Last year kind of slowed down, was a little banged up. So I'm concerned a little bit for Darnold. I think Urban Meyer is going to do a good job there, but it's a little scary because, these quarterbacks are coming from such great offenses in college, and, they go to the NFL and they got nobody, And this is the same thing for the guy I'm about to say next, Zach Wilson out of BYU. I don't understand why he's automatically assumed to go number two. It's bizarre to me because I really don't think Zach Wilson's that much better than the other quarterback candidates behind him. Mac Jones, Trey Lance, Justin Fields. I really don't think Zach Wilson's going to be the savior for the Jets. It's one of those things where he's for some reason, on everybody's mock draft, automatically going two, which I think he's going to go there. I just don't know why he's going to go there because, what I would have done was I would have kept Darnold and traded that pick and got a ton of draft picks because they don't need just one guy. They need a bunch of players on that team. They really still don't have the receivers. Who the heck did they get? Corey Davis? What is that? That's their, answer to no receivers, Corey Davis? No, Corey Davis is not going to be a number one receiver on that team. There's no way. And the problem is, who is Zach Wilson going to throw the ball to? Who? It's one of those things where Darnold couldn't do it for years, running for his life, no offensive line, no offense to help him. Zach Wilson's going to be in the same exact situation. The Jets are just the biggest morons ever. They're idiots. There's no way that I would have done this. I would have kept Darnold because, he's growing, he's learning the system, and I think Darnold is as good as anybody in this draft. In my opinion, I think he's just as good as Lawrence. Lawrence could be better, who knows? He's been great, but, I think Darnold with the right pieces is a good quarterback, and I don't think they ever gave him that in New York. So I think that BYU and Zach Wilson somehow did a great job of getting him and getting his draft stock, sky high, and his pro day really helped him. But I'm not so sure on him at all. And I'm going to say the same thing with this pick. Number 3, it's going to be Mac Jones, it seems to be, going to the Niners. And another pick where, it seemed when they moved up originally, when they first traded, they were going to get Justin Fields out of Ohio State. And throughout the last couple of weeks, you've seen, Justin Fields came out that he has epilepsy, which to me, it's a serious illness. It is. It's a disease that a lot of people have. It stops a lot of people from doing anything. But based on what I read, it's never stopped them from anything football related ever. He's never missed a game because of it, consistently playing. I just don't understand why his draft stock has dropped so much. Justin Fields has been unreal for Ohio State. One of the best players in the country the last 2 seasons, one of the most accurate passers in college football history. It's all of a sudden, because of this news that somehow came out, I don't even know why that came out. That's supposed to be personal information. His draft stock is depleted now, and I find it to be a little strange. I'll say the same thing with Mac Jones. What the hell is Mac Jones? They're so sold on Mac Jones. Granted, they have a pretty good offensive weapons in San Fran. They got George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. They got a couple good guys over there. But, Mac Jones was playing with Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith. That's the best receivers in the country. So it's Mac Jones is more of a stationary quarterback. he's not going to be able to move around. I thought Fields, to my opinion, or even Lance, was a great option because they can move throughout the pocket a lot better. They could run, and I think Kyle Shanahan, at least I would think that he would want a quarterback that was mobile, that can kind of be multi-dimensional versus like, well, Garoppolo's been there for them, not being able to move at all. And I think the team is a lot worse that way. So if it was me, I would have drafted Fields 3 if I was San Francisco, but I'm almost positive they're going to get Mac Jones, which could be good. I like Mac Jones and I don't like Mac Jones. You know, it's so hard to tell. Same thing with him. He's leaving a school that's loaded with talent, and he's going to a team where, you know, you really don't know what's going to happen. You know, it's tough to say. You know, San Fran is one of those teams where 2 years removed from a Super Bowl. You know, only 2 years ago they were in the Super Bowl against Kansas City, and you know, injuries and a bunch of different things have caused them to be a lot worse. But you know, they're that one piece away from being a really good football team still. So we'll see what happens. But I think they're going to get Mac Jones. 4, I think Atlanta's probably going to draft Kyle Pitts, the tight end out of Florida. I think he's a great player. Very, very similar to a Darren Waller type build. I think he's a stud personally. I just, you know, I'm a little concerned that Matt Ryan's getting up there in age. You know, you heard things about Julio Jones possibly being traded now, which I think is a little, you know, understandable, but also like, you know, if you're trying to get weapons for him, why are you going to trade weapons? You know, it's like you're drafting a weapon, but also getting rid of a big weapon. And I know he's been injured, and I know this and that's been going on with Julio Jones, but if I could keep all those guys together with Pitts, I would at least do it for 1 year just to see. You know, the whole point of you drafting him is to, you know, expand the offense, and you getting rid of Julio kind of like defeats the purpose of drafting Pitts. But I think they're going to go Kyle Pitts there, and I think he's a great player. I think he's probably the best player in the draft. Honestly, I really do. I think that in other circumstances, he could be probably the number 1 pick. You know, tight ends rarely ever do that, almost never. I don't think they even have. But he's going to be a X factor on offense. Like, how are they going to guard, you know, that team if Julio stays? They already have an unreal team now, offensively. You know, it's weird though, because if it was me, Matt Ryan's getting up there in age. You know, I've watched him for years. Matt Ryan's been one of my favorite quarterbacks. At this point, he's immobile. It's literally to a point where he can't move. If there's anyone on him, he goes down. So, to me, I would have drafted a quarterback. I've been saying that for years. I think that's the biggest thing limiting them. Bro, you can't move in the pocket at all. Like, Matt Ryan cannot sniff out of getting out of the pocket. And I think that holds that team so down because it's like, you can only do so much. Calvin Ridley's there. They have a pretty good offensive team. Hayden Hurst is there. You know, decent tight end. I don't really think they need another offensive weapon. That team reminds me of the Cowboys. It's like no matter how much offense they have, their defense sucks or their offensive line sucks. It's like something always happens where they just like want these flashy like wideouts or tight ends, but they still can't score. It's like they have the worst red zone efficiency in like the NFL in the last 5 years. The Falcons, one of the worst. And I really don't think that Pitts is going to make them that much better. Granted, yes, you should be able to score more points, but you know, Matt Ryan's going to be 38, 37 years old. Like, this guy's getting old. He already doesn't move well, and I just think that they should have drafted a quarterback. I think they should have got Fields or Lance because I think that, you know, Matt Ryan should have probably got traded or, you know, they probably should have sought other ways to get rid of him because at this point, you're not going to get any better with Matt Ryan still being there. So I think that they probably are going to get Pitts, but I don't really agree with it. Number 5, I think the Bengals would be silly not to draft Penny Sewell. You just watched your star quarterback in his first year tear his ACL, in large part due to him getting obliterated, literally not being able to block anybody on that team. It's like, I understand the appeal with Jamar Chase. I really do. He played with Burrow at LSU. I understand why that they would do that. I just don't understand why they would do it. At the same time, it's like you got to protect your quarterback. That's your investment. That's your bread and butter is Joe Burrow. And if he's not on the field, those receivers don't matter. We saw how horrendous they were with no Joe Burrow last year. It was embarrassing. You know, they have to protect Burrow. They got to get the best lineman in the draft. You got to get Penny Sewell out of Oregon if you were me, because I don't think it's practical to just same thing with them. They have decent receivers already. You know, they have Tyler Boyd. They just drafted a receiver last year who was actually pretty good. I can't think of his name right now, but I know him well. Great receiver. He was also from Clemson. I don't know why that they would draft him, because they don't need the offensive weapons as much as they need an offensive lineman, in my opinion. I got my mock draft here written on my phone. I'm going to keep going down the list. Number 6, I have the Dolphins definitely drafting Chase for 100%. So Jamar Chase is definitely going to go there and help out Tua, and I think it's a great pick for them. So recapping 1 through 5, you got Lawrence, Wilson, Mac Jones, Pitts, and now Pitts, Sewell, and now 6, Miami's going to get Jamar Chase. They need a receiver. It's simple as that. They need an offensive weapon. We saw last year what happened with Tua. I don't know why they played him so conservative, but they did not allow him to throw the ball down the field at all. And I think that really capped how good the Dolphins could have been. I'm not giving up on Tua. I'm really not. We saw how good he was with Alabama. And he was very accurate. He could throw the ball down the field. They just need another guy to get him to do that. And I think Chase is the perfect option. A little concerned with Chase, only for the reason that I think that he relies too much on just mossing people versus getting open consistently. And we didn't see him really play last year, so it's tough to tell. You would think he's a great receiver, great prospect, spectacular hands. It's just, I wish he had a little bit better separation, but I think he's definitely a good receiver, and I think I'll help out Tua a lot at, number 6. Number 7 is tough. I think that if the Lions stay where they are, which I think they should definitely draft Devontae Smith, which in my opinion is the best player in college football history as a receiver. One of the best, at least. I mean, this guy was an animal. He was unguardable at Alabama last year. Devontae Smith, I think, is the best receiver in the draft. A lot of people think Chase is. I think Devontae Smith is. A lot of people looking at Devontae Smith because of his stature. He's 165 soaking wet, very skinny, but he's a receiver. Why does that matter? People keep looking into that. Look at how many skinny receivers there are in the league. Granted, they're not 165 skinny, but they're pretty skinny. Stephon Diggs had 1,500 yards. He's a twig. Odell Beckham's not that big. He's muscular, but he's not that big. Skinny. All the receivers are pretty much skinny. There's just some of them are bigger. But I think he relies on getting open more so than anything else. And I think that weight doesn't really matter. And Jared Goff desperately needs somebody now that Galladay's gone to throw the ball to if they want to even compete, because they're going to be horrible. The Lions are doomed. And I think they would be stupid not to draft a receiver, to give Goff somebody to throw the ball to. And I think Devontae Smith is probably the best option there, in my opinion. We'll see what happens. Number 8 is tough. I keep on going back and forth on my mock. I got Rashawn Slater. I could also see them being idiots and drafting a quarterback too, which wouldn't be surprising. I know they just traded for Sam Darnold in Carolina, but, it's getting to a point where, where do you go? Do you go with, do you stay with Darnold even though you just gave up a couple picks for him, or you draft Justin Fields there at 8 or Trey Lance? And, I think Bridgewater's going to get traded. I've read a lot of things. I'm begging he doesn't get traded to Denver, which is my team. I've read some things that he could possibly be getting traded on draft night. I'm begging he doesn't come to us, but Bridgewater sucks in my opinion. Great guy, but he's just not a good quarterback. He's very limited to what he can do. He's a good backup. He's not a horrible quarterback. I just wouldn't want him as my quarterback. But if they do draft a quarterback, that's going to change a lot of things, because I could also see them moving back is the biggest thing. I could see Carolina and Detroit moving back in the draft, because they could probably get Rashawn Slater, that tackle, if they go back in the draft anyways. I could see New England moving up. I could see Denver moving up to get one of those quarterbacks, Fields or Lance. But I'm going to say if they stay there at 8, they're going to get Slater to help out that offensive line and help Darnold. Number 9, it's my team, the Broncos, and I have a couple guys penciled in, a couple different scenarios. I think if Fields is there, they're going to get Justin Fields, which I'm begging that happens. If not, they're definitely going to get Trey Lance, because a lot of people think that Micah Parsons, great linebacker, is going to go there, which they do need a linebacker, but I think they got to give him a lock. And I hate to say that because I did like Drew Lock a lot, but, it's so hard to tell. It's so hard to tell because Cortland Sutton was injured last year for the entirety of the season. You had Judy as their number 1 receiver as a rookie. Still had 900 yards, not bad. But, Drew Lock didn't look great. He really didn't. I think in large part because he was trying to force so many throws last year, he didn't look great. that's one of the biggest reasons why I think they're going to move on from him. But, I think if Fields is there, Denver has to draft him at 9. I'd be really disappointed. Or they could get Trey Lance if Fields gets picking earlier, which honestly I wouldn't mind either because I think Lance is good. We didn't see any tape from him last year. He didn't step foot on the field because of coronavirus. But I think Trey Lance is a great prospect. I think he could do really well in the NFL. He says he's similar to Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson. If he's anything similar to those two guys, Denver made out like bandits, whoever gets him. I think he has a lot of promise. He can run, he can throw, he's athletic. I think either one of those guys are probably going to go to Denver, but I'm going to go with Fields at 9. If he doesn't get drafted. Number 10, it's tough. Let me see what I got here listed. And I go back and forth on this. I got Dallas at 10, obviously. I think they're going to get one of the cornerbacks. I think they'd be stupid not to. I think Patrick Surtain is going to go there. I could also see J.C. Horn going there from South Carolina. I actually think Horn's more of a lockdown cornerback, but I think Surtain's a better cornerback, even though that doesn't make sense. But I think Surtain is going to go there at 10. I think he's the better cornerback in their defense, and I think he's going to be great for them. I think he's the obvious choice there. But you never know with Dallas. They're so stupid they could go elsewhere. Number 11, I keep on going back and forth with this one too. The Giants are on the board. I got Kwity Paye right now from Michigan, which is pretty much similar to it's like a defensive end, but he plays almost like, I'm trying to think of a player, Olivier Vernon that was there before, kind of similar to him. I think I think they're in need of a lot of different guys. If it was me, I would probably draft offensive line, just because it never seems that Daniel Jones has any time. They finally got weapons. They got, remember the line last year in the early part of the season? It was like the absolute worst, and then when Barkley got hurt, somehow it got better. I just think Daniel Jones needs more time to throw the ball. You finally got him some weapons. Barkley coming back, Kenny Golladay going there, I think is going to help. I think they should probably draft a lineman. They're going to go defense there with that pick. And number 12, the Eagles are on the board. I got them doing two different things. One of the scenarios, I got them also getting Horn if Dallas doesn't, which they really need a cornerback after letting go of a couple guys this offseason. Or I could see them drafting Jalen Waddle, who is a great receiver from Alabama too, which I think they should do. I think Waddle should go 12 to the Eagles. We saw what happened last year with Philadelphia. They could have got Jefferson. They didn't. They got Jalen Reagor for whatever reason, which I still don't understand why. Obviously, didn't turn out well. We saw Jefferson go on to have 1,400 yards. Reagor barely sniffed 500, which even though I don't think he's going to be a bad receiver going forward, I just think that they should have gotten Jefferson. I've said that countless times before, but I think they have finally the chance to make it up to him now and help out Jalen Hurts, and I think Jalen Reagor is a great option for them. Let me know what you guys think. This is the top 12. I'm probably going to finish up tomorrow with the rest of the first round, and let me know what you guys think about this. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you next time.